What's your name, kid?
The human spider.
The human spider, that's it? That's the best you got?
Number 20. Michael Caine, Dunkirk. You can't have a Christopher Nolan movie without Michael Caine, but the English actor flew under the radar in Dunkirk.
Check fuel, Fortis 1 and 2.
While Caine does not appear on screen, Tom Hardy and Jack Lowden do receive a radio message at one point from a familiar voice.
And keep an eye on that gauge, even when it gets lively. Safe enough to get back.
It's not easy to hear over the noisy planes, but if you listen closely, you can totally make out Caine's signature Cockney accent. Caine's cameo as the Fortis leader was an homage to his role in Battle of Britain, a 1969 World War II drama in which he played squadron leader Canfield. Almost 5 decades later, Caine is still fighting the same war.
The engine's overheating and so am I. We either stand down or blow up. Which do you want?
Number 19. Bill Murray, Dumb and Dumber 2.
I like what you've done with the place. Nice cappuccino machine.
In this long-awaited sequel, the Farrelly brothers not only reunited with stars Jim Carrey and Jeff Daniels, but Bill Murray as well.
Who's the astronaut?
Oh, that's my roommate.
If you missed Murray, that's because he was hidden under a hazmat suit. Returning home for the first time in 20 years, Lloyd learns that Harry has been sharing the apartment with a mysterious man named Ice Pick.
How's it going, Ice Pick?
Best day ever. Greatest day of my life, really.
Calling Walter White to mind, Murray's character makes a living by cooking rock candy that people and cats go crazy for.
Folks come from all over the city to buy it.
The movie might be called Dumb and Dumber 2, but this is actually a pretty clever Easter egg that only the most attentive moviegoers caught.
It's burning my eyes. Must be Cajun style.
Number 18. Steven Spielberg, The Blues Brothers. The climax of this comedy classic throws in everything but the kitchen sink. With the police, firefighters, and even the military pursuing the Blues Brothers, it's easy to miss arguably the most iconic director alive.
Can I help you?
As the world outside his office erupts in chaos, a Cook County assessor played by Steven Spielberg obliviously eats his sandwich. Lunch is interrupted by Jake and Elwood, who pay their taxes just before the authorities cuff them.
$5,000, it's all there, pal.
Spielberg signs the receipts with the name R.J. Daley, a subtle nod to Chicago Mayor Richard J. Daley.
And here is your receipt.
1 year before Blues Brothers, Spielberg notably directed John Belushi in the war comedy 1941.
I'd like to eat sauerkraut for the rest of your life.
By the way, don't be surprised if Dan Aykroyd pops up in a Spielberg picture later on. Number 17. Jim Carrey, Liar Liar. We know what you're thinking. Jim Carrey was the lead in Liar Liar. How could he have a cameo in his own star vehicle?
Here she comes to wreck the day!
Well, remember the scene where Fletcher Reed gets injured at the airport? Look closely as his family shoves their way through a crowd of people. In the background, you might recognize a grinning fireman hidden behind a pair of shades.
Yeah, he's my husband. Was my husband.
It is none other than Carrey, standing just a few feet away from Fletcher. This is apparently supposed to be Fire Marshal Bill, a recurring character Carrey portrayed on In Living Color.
Nice to meet you, folks. Fire Marshal Bill here.
Won't you come in?
Hey, if Ace Ventura and Stanley Ipkiss can exist in the same universe, why not Fletcher and Bill? Number 16. Garrett Morris, Ant-Man. When Scott Lang takes his Ant-Man suit for a test drive, he lands on the roof of a car parked outside. The driver is played by comedian Garrett Morris, who was a cast member on Saturday Night Live from 1975 to 1980.
What the hell?
At first, this may seem like a random cameo, but hardcore SNL fans will notice its significance. In a sketch entitled Superhero Party, Morris appeared as Ant-Man, along with host Margot Kidder as Lois Lane, Bill Murray as Superman, and various others.
What are your superpowers again? You talk to the ants, is that it?
Well, partly, but mainly I shrink myself down to the size of an ant while retaining my full human strength.
While a parody, this was technically the first live-action portrayal of Ant-Man. Ant-Man is heckled by the Flash and Hulk, who don't think his powers are anything particularly special. Ant-Man and his costume have certainly come a long way since then.
Oh, best stay out of this guy's way. Oh, every molecule's quivering now.
Number 15. Nathan Fillion, Guardians of the Galaxy.
Check out the new meat.
Nathan Fillion is a regular in director James Gunn's movies. He's also best known for playing Malcolm Reynolds, one of the most beloved starship captains of all time. Naturally, Fillion had to pop up somewhere in Guardians of the Galaxy. Even the most die-hard sci-fi fans missed his cameo, though.
I'm gonna slather you up in Navi and jelly. Go to town.
Upon arriving at the kiln, our heroes come face-to-face with numerous monstrous inmates. Fillion voices a blue thug that gives Peter Quill an especially hard time. Luckily, Groot has Peter's back and the thug's nose. Number 14. Kristen Wiig. Her.
The following are adult female, can't sleep, and want to have some fun.
This film follows the romance between a man named Theodore and an OS named Samantha. Before Theodore falls for the disembodied voice of his dreams, he tries to make a connection with a fellow lonely soul. An unseen Kristen Wiig voices Sexy Kitten, a woman that can't sleep and wants to have some fun.
Hi, I'm here alone and I can't sleep. Who's out there to share this bed with me?
Initially, she seems like an ideal candidate for a phone sex hookup. When she starts talking about dead cats, however, Theodore suddenly loses his sex drive. Many people didn't recognize Wiig's voice, although they probably should have in retrospect. After all, she's one of the few comedians that could pull off this role with just the right balance of quirkiness and kinkiness.
I'm pulling it. I'm pulling it. The cat's dead. It's a dead cat around your neck, and I'm pulling it.
Number 13. Cameron Crowe. Minority Report. Not even the precogs could have foreseen this cameo. Wanted for a crime that hasn't happened yet, Chief John Anderton's name and face are soon plastered over every newspaper. Anderton is spotted by a passenger sitting across from him on a train. Even if you don't recognize the passenger, you might have seen some of his movies, which include Almost Famous, Jerry Maguire, and Say Anything. Cameron Crowe isn't the only famous face on this train, as Cameron Diaz can also be seen sitting behind him. What's the common thread here? 1 year earlier, director Steven Spielberg made an uncredited cameo as a party guest in Crowe's Vanilla Sky, which starred Diaz and Tom Cruise. Could it be that this whole movie is just a simulated reality?
Happy birthday, David.
Happy birthday!
Number 12. Paul Reubens. Batman Returns. Previously working with Tim Burton on Pee-wee's Big Adventure, Reubens' appearance in Batman Returns saw him play a completely different kind of character. Perhaps that's why he slipped by unnoticed. The usually eccentric Reubens stars as Tucker Cobblepot, a restrained, distant man who views his newly born son as an abomination. Along with his equally heartless wife, played by fellow Pee-wee alumnus Diane Salinger, Reubens' character dumps young Oswald into the sewers, where a family of penguins awaits. Although nobody caught the cameo at first, this has since become one of Reubens' most memorable roles. Perhaps because of this, Reubens would go on to play Penguin's father again in the TV series Gotham.
Isabella's over on the other side with us, whispering tales of murder.
Number 11. Bruce Campbell, Fargo.
What?
Well, it's something kind of small, but it might be a big problem.
Written, directed, and produced by the Coen brothers, this Oscar-winning black comedy follows a man who concocts a plan to kidnap his wife for ransom, the criminals he hires, and the pregnant police chief on their trail. Fargo may feature Frances McDormand, William H. Macy, and Steve Buscemi. But did you also know that Ash Williams himself can be spotted on screen? Literally? That's right. When Buscemi and Peter Stormado's small-time crooks have Jean Lundegaard tied up and blindfolded, Gare watches The Tube to pass the time. The show that captures his attention before the arrival of his partner Carl happens to be a soap opera with Campbell acting in a dramatic scene that leaves Gare momentarily speechless.
I'm pregnant.
Huh?
I'm pregnant.
Number 10. Brad Pitt, Deadpool 2. The Vanisher remains invisible until his days with X-Force come to an abrupt end. In a blink and you'll miss it moment, Brad Pitt makes a shocking and hilariously brief cameo as Vanisher flies into a telephone pole.
Vanisher! Maybe the wind can't blow what it can't see.
It's a brilliant waste of a great actor, and the cameo is only made funnier when you consider that Pitt was originally in talks to play Cable before scheduling interfered. So, instead of playing Cable, he got electrocuted by some cables.
Really?
Pitt's not the only Ocean's 11 actor present. An unrecognizable Matt Damon also appears as a beer-bellied redneck named Dickie Greenleaf, who has clearly gone through some changes since the talented Mr. Ripley.
Toilet paper is plenty fine appetizer, but then Huggies Natural Care Wet Wipes. That's your main course.
And the other guy talking to Damon about toilet paper? That's Alan Tudyk.
What year is it?
What kind of dumbass question is that, Dad?
Number 9. Jimmy Buffett, Jurassic World. Jurassic World is wall-to-wall with product placement, but let's be honest. If a Jurassic theme park were real, it would probably have more corporate sponsors than dinosaurs. Among the many brand names in the film is Jimmy Buffett's Margaritaville.
Due to a containment anomaly, all guests must take shelter immediately.
When the pterosaurs break free from their aviary, the Margaritaville patrons are forced to flee for their lives. In the midst of all this anarchy, one man grabs 2 large margarita glasses before taking off. This margarita enthusiast is Jimmy Buffett himself. Producer Frank Marshall has snuck Buffett into a few of his films over the years, including Hook.
I fancied him showing his shoes from our booty.
Well, I think you can get them at Armani.
This is easily Buffett's most meta cameo, however. While we never learn the fate of Buffett's character, the Margaritaville was the climax's greatest casualty. Number 8. Lucy Lawless, Spider-Man. We all know that Bruce Campbell appeared throughout the original Spider-Man trilogy, but he's not the only actor with close ties to director Sam Raimi.
What's your name, kid?
The human spider.
The human spider, that's it? That's the best you got?
Yeah.
Oh, that sucks.
As Spider-Man rises up as the hero New York needs, several residents share their thoughts on the web-slinger.
This is not a man. My brother saw him building a nest in the Lincoln Center fountain.
A punk rock woman is turned on by the idea of a guy with 8 hands.
Guy with 8 hands. Sounds hot.
Given that she's best known for playing the titular character in Xena Warrior Princess, it likely didn't occur to you that this New Yorker is Lucy Lawless. Raimi actually helped develop the Xena TV series, which was co-created by Lawless's husband, Robert Tappert.
Why wasn't I told?
Of course, we're still waiting for an official crossover between Spidey and Xena. That's gotta exist somewhere in the Spider-Verse, right? Number 7. Dan Aykroyd, Indiana Jones and the Temple of Doom.
Ah, Dr. Jones, I'm Al Weber.
Trying to escape from Shanghai, Indy and his friends get some help from a British military officer named Art Weber. Dan Aykroyd plays Weber, although it likely took audiences multiple viewings to realize this.
But there might be a slight inconvenience as you will be riding on a cargo full of live poultry.
Is he kidding? It's easy to overlook Aykroyd's presence since the camera never zooms in on his face. Plus, he puts on a thick English accent and delivers his lines at a rapid pace.
Heavens, aren't you Willie Scott, the famous American female vocalist?
And Aykroyd isn't the only big name that makes an appearance in this scene. Director Steven Spielberg, co-writer George Lucas, associate producer Kathleen Kennedy, and executive producer Frank Marshall can all be spotted at the airport. Talk about cameo overload.
Oh yeah, Jen!
Number 6. George Harrison, Monty Python's Life of Brian. You may be surprised by the sheer number of times George Harrison has crossed paths with the Monty Python crew. Eric Idle directed a music video for Cracker Box Palace, and Harrison was a producer for the Lumberjack song.
He's a lumberjack, he's all day, sings all night and he works all day.
The former Beatle even helped get Monty Python's Life of Brian off the ground, forming handmade films to finance the picture.
Let's go to Stoning.
You can go to a Stoning anytime.
Oh, come on, Brian!
Since this comedy classic probably wouldn't exist without Harrison, the least the filmmakers could do was give him a cameo. As Brian makes his way through a crowd, Harrison can be seen greeting the so-called Messiah. Harrison's character is named Mr. Papadopoulos, the Mount's owner. Although he didn't get much screen time, it's safe to say that Harrison was this production's savior. Number 5. Cate Blanchett, Hot Fuzz.
Hello?
Janine, it's me.
I know, I'm at work.
Cate Blanchett took a break from Oscar-winning dramas to make an appearance in this laugh-a-minute comedy. Not that you'd notice. Playing Janine, Nick Angel's ex-girlfriend, she is concealed under a mask and coveralls, which not only hides Blanchett, but also means her character blends in with everyone else at the crime scene. Angel can't even differentiate who's who, as he attempts to bid his former lover farewell.
Nicholas, what do you want?
Well, I have something important to tell you, and I didn't want to do it over the phone.
Since Blanchett is arguably the most accomplished performer in the movie, you'd think that the filmmakers would at least show her whole face. Yet they clearly went out of their way to make sure nobody in the audience spotted her. This just makes her uncredited cameo all the more hilarious.
You just can't switch off, Nicholas. And until you find a person you care about more than your job, you never will.
Number 4. Stephen Colbert, The Hobbit, The Desolation of Smaug.
Erdogan
is not a name from the Lord of the Rings. I know it sounds like Erdogan could be Aragorn's dad, but obviously that's Arathorn. I don't have to explain that to you.
If you haven't noticed, Stephen Colbert is a pretty big Lord of the Rings fan.
There's an important legal distinction between Gollum and Smeagol. Smeagol is a perfectly normal hobbit until he was corrupted by the One Ring and became the creature known as Gollum.
As a matter of fact, Peter Jackson has described him as the biggest Tolkien geek he's ever met. In The Hobbit, The Desolation of Smaug, Jackson finally gave the comedian a chance to visit Middle-earth. Since this franchise has so many characters, it isn't surprising that Colbert got lost in the shuffle. However, he can briefly be seen as a Lake Town spy. He's only on screen for a few seconds, but at least Colbert can say that he's officially part of Tolkien mythology. Colbert returned the favor by letting Smaug crash in on the Colbert Report.
We both live in gated communities, and we're both fiscal conservatives who sleep on giant piles of money.
Quite right. Time to return to the gold standard.
Number 3, Glenn Close, Hook.
You bet against me bringing Pan back here, didn't you?
No.
Hook has a couple of fun cameos, but this one is by far the sneakiest. Hiding an Oscar-nominated actress in plain sight is no easy task, but director Steven Spielberg pulled it off in this scene.
I did. Yes, you made a boo-boo.
I did. Captain Hook isn't at all pleased with fellow pirate Gutless, played by an unrecognizable Glenn Close. As punishment for doubting him, Hook condemns Gutless to the boo box with a couple of scorpions.
The boo box. Yeah.
Although Gutless is supposedly a man, it wasn't uncommon for women to disguise themselves as male pirates, so perhaps that's the basis behind this cameo. It also wouldn't be the last time Close has done drag.
You never wear a dress.
Number 2, Steve Buscemi, Pulp Fiction.
Hi, I'm Buddy. What can I get you?
John Travolta and Uma Thurman are nothing short of captivating during the Jackrabbit Slim scene in Quentin Tarantino's Pulp Fiction. Since all eyes are on these two, audiences often fail to notice Steve Buscemi as their waiter. Dressed as Buddy Holly, Buscemi's character serves up a bloody-as-hell steak and a $5 shake with no bourbon.
How do you want that cooked? Run to a crisp or bloody as hell?
Bloody as hell, and oh yeah, look at this, vanilla Coke.
Buscemi previously played Mr. Pink in Tarantino's Reservoir Dogs, which is technically set in the same universe. So does this mean that the waiter is actually Mr. Pink hiding from the police? If so, he's doing a great job at keeping a low profile.
How do you want that shake? Martin and Lewis or Amos and Andy?
Martin and Lewis.
Before we unveil our number 1 pick, here are some honorable mentions. Wes Craven, Scream.
Damn little shits. What'd you call me? Huh?
Not your friend.
Bradley Cooper, 10 Cloverfield Lane.
Michelle, please don't hang up. Just talk to me, okay?
David Beckham, The Man from U.N.C.L.E.
Эта скандальная история привлекла внимание ЦРУ. Они признали, что...
Number 1, Daniel Craig, Star Wars Episode 7, The Force Awakens.
You will remove these restraints and leave this cell with the door open.
What did you say?
Daniel Craig has become iconic for his portrayal of James Bond, but that's not the only blockbuster franchise he's taken part in. Everyone was stunned to learn that Craig played a stormtrooper in Star Wars The Force Awakens. Which stormtrooper, you ask? Remember the soldier that was put in charge of guarding Rey on Starkiller Base? The one that Rey completely mind-tricked and forced to remove her restraints, leave the cell open, and drop his weapon? Daniel Craig.
I'll tighten those restraints. Scavenger scum.
What makes this cameo especially ingenious is that the stormtrooper is named JB-007, a clear homage to James Bond and his codename. Well played, Abrams. Well played.
I will remove these restraints and leave the cell with the door open.
Did you enjoy this video? Check out these other clips from WatchMojo, and be sure to subscribe and ring the bell to be notified about our latest videos.